morning, AM Brainstormers. Today we are in conversation with Aitor Olabegoya and Max Levy in Beijing, China. Aitor is the executive chef at the Beijing Spanish eatery Migas. The Barcelona native started his career in 1999 and since then has received several awards, including the Best International Young Chef in Spain. Aitor has worked on a plethora of experimental projects, including a Beijing Sanlunche food cart takeover. He has also given a master class at Harvard's School of Engineering and Applied Sciences on the cooking oil research he's doing in conjunction with Carles Tejor. Max, as a wayward adventurer and a hungry traveler, lived in Japan, where he worked on an eel farm and learned to make biodynamic sea salt from Japanese masters. Max broke into New York's Japanese chef training at the sushi counters of Jewel Bako, Bond Street, and Mogu. His bravura gained him merit as the only non-Japanese sushi chef at Sushi Yasuda, where he earned 3 stars from the New York Times. In Beijing, Max has opened a plethora of restaurants and bars, including Bei at the Opposite House, Apothecary Cocktails and Dining, Trader Joe's Kaifeng non-kosher delicatessen, and most recently, Okra, a sushi and cocktail bar in Sanlitun's 1949. You know, a lot of people, when they're enjoying a meal, they don't really necessarily think about all of the components that go into creating that meal, and how, as creative practitioners, there is a lot of research and there's also a lot of elements that need to be considered in terms of temperature, flavor, or mouthfeel of the food. Also, how are they sourcing their products? Where are they sourcing it? Are they creating it themselves? Are they importing it? And how does that influence, whether it's the prices of the meal and, as a result, who's able to enjoy it? So if you guys wanted just to, start talking about the elements that go in, that you consider when creating a dish, and, maybe even before creating a dish, what is it that you personally are interested in as creators rather than as chefs, but creators working in this culinary practice?
I guess the conversation that we started having with Andy before was just about where does the creativity come from. It's just like, for me, I guess historically and then through my life, the creativity always evolves from a problem or a situation, something that you need to solve. And you're just what is the best way to solve that problem, but then also how can you do it creatively, and it's whether or not that creativity is spawning from an uncontrollable situation or an issue, or that creativity is just for the sake of creativity.
So for me, about how I understand, I am quite more, it's not casual, it's spontaneous. Spontaneous. Sometimes too much. So for me, the how I make the food, or I am not really good at focusing. I am completely expansive. He's really good at focusing, for that help. So the idea for me is following the seasons. It's the same that his background and the problems give him the creativity to solve them with a way that finally you win, not only solve a problem, you also win another value, you add value to this problem. So for me, when I get the challenge of finding new products, I need to be excited of what I am doing. If not, I am 1 year waiting for C1 ham because he stimulated and made me excited about wait 1 year to make a ham. So I get him excited of the things that for him is not that excitement, and he make me excited. So for that, our creativity together can arrive to next level. Is when the project of the salchicha star, the knowledge of Spanish salchicha after start making with him butcher products is really small. It's not that big, because we don't check the fermentation, we don't check the pH, we don't check a lot of things that when other one from other completely different view start taking. So the creativity is the stimulus of the surroundings that one to each other we can give. This that you are alone in your house and you are looking the ceiling and the things come to the mind, this is completely a lie. Or you smoke or anything come to your mind if you are there alone.
Yeah, with the sausage, actually it's a good idea because for Aitor had experience making sausage before, and then I grew up making sausage with my family and everything, but when we actually started to try to make sausage, a lot of sausage, and to control it, suddenly we were presented with so many different problems. The first time that we had literally a batch or a lot of sausage fail, meaning that it was, whether you want to say it was no good or whether it went bad, but then the problem was like, okay, do we just say like, okay, it's all bad and we just throw it away, or do we try to fix it? And then with all of these things, even though traditionally, like I was always taught that, once it's past a certain level, once it ferments, once it gets too hot, you should just throw it away. But the thing is, if you look back through history or you look back through the different cultures, a lot of these things like fermented pickles, kimchi, any of these things, according to hygiene laws and science, you're not supposed to eat them. And so it's just like if we can go and study a little bit and get some knowledge about just the basic science and apply them to food, then you can start to see that, okay, maybe this stuff our parents or whoever has taught us we shouldn't eat this because it has a sour taste, right? But the thing is, it's just like the sour taste is not harmful to your body. It's just a different feeling. So it's just, how can we take these products that some people are telling us are no good and turn them into better products? Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work at all. But it's for me, it's always you start off one simple project and then you come off with a problem, and then you solve that problem, and usually by solving that problem is where you usually get the best results, because it's pushing the people you're working with to be more creative and to come up with better solutions.
And also it's really fun after you start getting, because yes, after a time in Beijing, and we get quite success in our own business, and we are doing well, and we are doing a good job. And after all of this, they come, so you can make anything. So let's go to jump in another kind of market, and with more ideas, and what you think about this idea, what we don't create. Everyone start with the idea, let's go to create something. First, we don't create nothing. We only interpretate of the things that we have around. But second, it's a lot of people that we met with really interesting project and ideas and way of thinking. But after this concept translate in a business model, in a business concept, it's completely different. Make this happen, no one time, no one event. No full one-time an event that we can make an event and we can bring 2,000 people and everyone will get fun. Make this every day. This is what is completely different, because the business rational thinking in the creativity is irrational, and the creativity we cannot make rational, because if we make rational is science. So how you match these two things, this is the key point. We can make amazing designs, amazing subjects, amazing products, but if we don't change this in a business model, in a business concept, don't work for nothing.
Yeah, I mean, the business is the most difficult thing for me, because once someone starts saying like, oh, Max is a creative chef, then all of a sudden all these people start calling you and say, can you do this? Can you do this? And for me, I just say no, because I'm sorry, I'm not interested in your idea. It's just like, no, I don't want to make a...
Usually it's to me. He says to me 1,000 times a day. I am the one coming with ideas, and he say no.
I don't say no anymore. I just say mm-hmm. But it's like somebody comes and it's like, oh, we work for what was this, years ago? It was like Armani. Can you make a steak that shaped like the Armani logo? And you make it black? I was like, yes, I can take a piece of meat and I will cut it with scissors and then we will burn it, and then there you go. No, we want it to taste good. I said, no. Not interested. I mean, because the thing is, for me, if I'm creating something or making a dish, I don't want to just do it just so it looks nice and it amazes. Like, I want someone to eat that, and then when they taste it, they're like, I want to eat this every day. Not because it's surprising or not because it's creative, because it tastes like food and it's lasting. And the thing about like design for me, actually, it's very similar in that if you look at, why do people always obsess with authentic food or traditional food? because a long time ago when people are making dishes, it's just like they're not making dishes like, hey, how can I make a new dish to attract more clientele? They're making a dish because it just happened and it's good and it was naturally, those ingredients went together in whatever thing, and so that lasted for a long time. And so with design, I mean, it's hard to find anything anymore, but like this glass, you know, I mean, that glass is from IKEA, but that design is more than 100 years old. Because whoever designed that or came up with that design was, they tested that, you know, they had a solution, you know, it had to fit well in your hand. But now with food, with design, all of these things, because of the internet, because of information comes so quickly, people have the need to get out their ideas as quickly as possible without testing them. You know, and so there's all these restaurants popping up with like tasting menus, and you know, you go and it's just like, we have to go see the most creative chef, and you eat it and you're like, wow, I've never tasted this before. It doesn't taste good, but I've never tasted it before. And then you go and then, how was it? It was amazing. I had all these things I'd never had before. What did you have? I had a shoe on a dish, and I'd never had that before, and I'll never have that anywhere else, and you can only have that there. And then everybody's like, I gotta go there. I gotta have this shoe. So, you know, it's difficult to, like I said, going back, I mean, like, to do something you feel proud of, you know, and create something new, but at the same time, stay relevant and keep going with the business, you know, because it's just like, the reality is people want to pay for this Armani shaped whatever, you know, and for me, it's a, yeah, I mean, I say no a lot because it's not something I can really feel proud of.
I'm curious to know what you guys talk about behind closed doors. Well,
I told her. I told her already. I told her already. No, you can't talk about that.
Don't ask this to Aitor because you know my philosophy. Don't ask me anything you don't want to know. Half of my inspiration is here in front sitting. It's not bullshit. It's true. He's like my pillow. No,
but it's a body pillow, you know.
No, when I need some advice, I go to, because he have the cold mind. He's like really cold woman, and I really like hot one.
So in other words, I'm his bitch.
Yes. And the other 50% fault is there. That is my wife. So it's the true 50% of my creativity. Yes, is the one that they take my feet and put me in the floor. I am the one that I try sometimes to help to fly more them, and they need to every day trying to keep me in the floor, touching the floor.
So what are the things that are trying to like bring you away from the floor? Tell me about these like ideas that you have, like new research you want to do.
That's another Saturday.
No, the idea that I have right now is first be happy creating what I like.
Yeah.
But for be happy creating what you like, this needs to be real business.
Right.
Because the only real business that is right now is Migas, the lab, but the ideas that they come from there, the creativity that they come from there, put in a channel of the business.
Right.
This is the challenge.
Right.
I don't want to create more concepts. I can bring one Saturday all the logos, brands, concepts, and events that we make real. I show you the events of Senses, the event of Sushi Berico, Dividado, thousands. Well, he can bring another 1,000, but what of these ones is a real business? You know? But now everyone hates Starbucks. Starbucks, yes, but everyone go to Starbucks. But when you create this, oh, it's super creative, Starbucks, and you create the logo. When this going to happen with our projects? Yes, and we will be here all the day, and we don't need to do other things that create and talk about it.
Right.
This is the challenge now. The challenge is to take right now, feel happy making something creative that you can change in a business model.
Right.
We don't want to be millionaire, but need to be something consistent that don't need to make, because right now it's so nice, but we put a lot of money from the pockets to this creativity idea that we get. It's not that we are taking the others' money. We are playing with our own money. And the sausage phase, the 100 kgs, yes, we are looking 100 kgs, and now it's so funny, oh, but now it's working. Yes, it's working after when you have to put 100 kgs from your pocket in pork, and 1 week work, and 2 months waiting, and the sausages don't come good. This day the creativity is a really bad mood.
Yeah, I mean, the like another thing is that because the money, a lot of people, of course, when you go into a restaurant, you know, you don't. you know, we're not asking you to think about all the money that went into it. You know, we want you to enjoy your meal, enjoy your dinner. I mean, it's not, we're not going there saying like, this costs this much, and like that guy, he's a terrible worker, but we have to pay him anyway, and you know, and all these things. It's our problems, but you know, we've had several times where some artists who make a lot of money, you know, will come into my restaurant and then they'll complain about the price. And, you know, it's too expensive. And for me, it's like, okay, if you're going to complain, then I'll tell you exactly how much it costs. I have no problem. And I'll tell you how much we make of it. And they say, oh, but, you know, I can just go buy this off the street. I said, yeah, but it's not the same quality. And it's not the same thing. And I said, and honestly, like, you know, I have to pay the rent. You know, I have to pay all of this staff. So you can go eat it on the street, but the experience is not going to be the same. And he said, oh, but, you know, you shouldn't charge as much. And I said, buddy, I'm not going to tell you what he made. He made something that didn't cost that much, but he sold it for about $10 million US. Based purely on his creativity, and the thing is, it's just like the whole idea behind that, the whole story behind that is great once someone tells you the story. But the thing is, like, when I put the food in front of you, I don't have to explain it. You can just eat it. And you either like it or you don't. And I can only charge 15% above the cost.
No, the problem is that, okay, even if you don't get 10 million for a simple good idea, the people is missing histories behind the concept and the creativity. 1,000 people can make a window, can make an art, a design, but we are missing the history behind. But when you have this history, yes, and you design this font, this will be like when you are an actor and you make a movie. You make a good movie and you have all the rest of your life the video. But we are playing every day like an actor in the theater. If he don't make a good performance, his creativity that day, with all the background work, with all the problems, is shit because the customer don't get. And when they get, sometimes tell it's expensive or it's cheap. What the fuck? You can go to eat McDonald's. It's the most amazing creativity. Really. McDonald's is the most amazing creativity. And they taste good. Go there. But if you want a guy behind the bar that wake up at 7, come here to make a speech to you, now go to make a party, and in the night is making sushi. And you cannot see anyone touching her face, and I say, why? What do you think? For me, it's a stupid thing. If someone in my kitchen touches the face, and in his kitchen it's completely forbidden. And it's things that we don't stop to think about it, but it's a lot behind to go to a restaurant. I am not in Migas cooking. For Migas it's 250 to 300. Of course, I am not there. If I need to be there cooking and you come to the bar and I need to make every day, his work for me is priceless. You cannot pay one guy behind the bar, but no of him, of any good talent sushi chef. Actually, it's his hands.
That's kind of funny because, you know, every morning people call me at 7 o'clock, 8 o'clock in the morning, and they say, "You're still sleeping? You're still why are you not awake? Can I talk to you?" And then those same people will go into my restaurant, and if God forbid I take one night off, they say, "You're not at your restaurant? It's 10 o'clock at night. You're not at your restaurant?" And you know, it's suddenly like when you put your name on something, or you know you're there. It's just like it should be available 24 hours a day, you know, and it should be the same quality. And it's just like, yes, you know, I work very hard so that when I'm not there, the quality is the same. But you know, it's people don't give you any slack.
Yes.
When I first came to China to work, or to Beijing and to work in 2003, every restaurant person, every chef that I was introduced to, anyone said, "Don't use anything from China. You have to use everything that's imported." And I said, "What about the vegetables?" And they said, "If you can get imported vegetables, use it. They're not safe. You're gonna make all of your customers sick, and then no one will come to your restaurant." And I was thinking, like, okay, maybe I need to rethink this China thing. Okay, if that's true. And then, you know, I'm going on the street, and it's like, okay, maybe the food quality is not the best, but it's not that bad. And, you know, I mean, to be honest, like, I've had much worse in other parts of the world. And then, you know, honestly, I started thinking logically, it's like, how can this many people survive every day if everything is bad? it doesn't make any sense, you know, and it's just, and when I look back at my own culture in the US and the amount of scare tactics that are used in the media, you know, to like, anytime there's, you know, we all hear about the food scandals here in China, with the milk, whether the bread, all these things, but in the US it's all the time too. You know, you have it, maybe it's not on such a large scale because it's not as large of a country, but, you know, you have those things all the time. Like, you know, people get the E. coli, they get salmonella poisoning from restaurants. It's a common thing everywhere in the world. And the percentages, if you really look at them for China or another country, the ratio, is almost about the same. But because China's a bigger country, you know, it's a larger amount of people that get affected. So, I mean, with that reasoning, you know, I was able to say, like, okay, then there has to be better products available here. And so the more and more I started asking people around, and more like educated people, yeah, you know, it's just the ingredients that are more traditional ingredients that are indigenous to this area haven't really been messed around with because they're not commercially viable ingredients. So once you move away from using like those 8 sort of staple ingredients, I mean, I remember like up until about 4 or 5 years ago, when you would go to a market, there was just 8 vegetables. Every market had the same 8 vegetables, and you were like, do you have anything else? No. And it was like winter, summer, spring, fall, same vegetables. And it all looked the same, and I was just like, why are we going to this market? Now when you go to any market, there's like 30 different vegetables, and they're from all over China, and even more recently, the last year, you're starting to see more and more things that are actually from like Beijing and the Tangshan area. Because like whether it's an education level that's grown, or it's hard to say why that's happened, but in terms of your question, it's that search to try to find better ingredients, which kind of encourages the creative process, because, you know, I didn't come here to use arugula and I can't even, whatever Western vegetables that people try to sell me every day, because they come into the kitchen every day, oh, you're white. Do you want to buy this? No. Why would I want to come out here and use like a vegetable that you took from, you know, Italy or something like that? It's not even, has nothing to do with my culture or what I do in the restaurant. So.
Also about being in China, located in China, what provides for my side of the creativity, here is a lot of more freedom, because, for example, now we travel also a lot and have a lot of friends there in Hong Kong and Cambodia, but traveling, for example, for Hong Kong, and with experience in Hong Kong and with Singapore opening there, when I find some good local products in Hong Kong, any Hong Kongese want to eat, you know? You cannot tell that this squid is from Hong Kong. Here in China, this don't happen. When you find really good local products, you cook, and they don't ask if this is export or import. It's not about fish. It's not the fish that now day by day start becoming better. But with a lot of products here in China, you have much more opportunities. And don't forget that in the next years, with the Japanese problem of the nuclear, and also with South America problems, the world don't have that many places to provide food. And China will be becoming a huge supplier for outside. The thing is, they don't know yet what is their treasures, that they can bring money to export the products outside.
Yeah, I mean, the fish is an example. Like, I worked for almost 4 years to try to find fishermen near Taiwan in Xiamen, you know, and then finally we found this ecological preserve in this area called Dongshan, which is just west of Xiamen. And we went to all this trouble. You know, you have to go down there, you fly to Xiamen, then you have to drive for 4 hours, and you have to take a bus, and you take this boat, and then you go there, and it's beautiful. And the water is so clean. I mean, you can just literally drink the seawater. It's so fresh, and all the seafood is really good, and there's just small boats, no large boats, and the only problem is, like, they didn't have refrigerated trucks to send the things to keep it fresh. So everything was really good, they just couldn't get to Beijing. So, you know, I worked with some fish suppliers, and then finally we got a refrigerated truck, then they bring it to Xiamen, and they ship it here. And then I get this fish, and I'm really proud of it, and because these fishermen are catching with a fishing pole, it's not in a net, so it's completely sustainable. It's everything that you want to hear in the media that people tell you is good for you. And then I tell a customer, and they're like, where does your fish come from? And I said, some of it's from Japan, some of it's from New Zealand, but we have this really good fish from Xiamen. Okay, I'll take the one from Japan. No, like, this is really good. And you tell him the whole story, and then he's looking at me, and he goes, so which fish is from Japan? And I said, well, we have this one with the 2 heads. It comes from the nuclear radiated water. And you're like, oh, I take 2. It's yeah, that's the thing. It's like, no matter how I try to get really good ingredients. And so finally, it's, the reality is that for a lot of foreigners, they want to hear that you're using local ingredients. And for maybe, it's less now, but I would say about half of the Chinese people that come in, when you tell them the local ingredients, they automatically think that the quality must be substandard. And that's something that we went through in the U.S. for pretty much the entire time that I was cooking for 15 years in the U.S. When you were working in any kind of restaurant that had any sort of foreign, whether it's a French restaurant, Italian restaurant, or fusion restaurant, things like that, people wanted to hear that you were using imported ingredients because it justified a more expensive cost. But then it changed about 5-6 years ago. And now nobody wants to hear anything about imported ingredients in the U.S. And that will happen soon here. I mean, in the U.S. it took 50 years. Here it's taken 5 years.
My idea is, if it's someone else that is doing really good or better than you, why you go to use your work and your time and your effort to do this? Take from them, and if I have something that I can provide to them, it's so stupid to use your time, use your resources in something that is already well done from others. So this is what we like to do and to share.
I guess anyone that's known me for a long time knows that anytime I'm doing something really good and it's being really successful, I always have to tear it all apart because I want to start all over again. With the sausage, when we first started doing this, it's, for me, honestly, it wasn't really that big of a deal. But then for most restaurants to make their own sausage at that time wasn't really that big of a deal. And so when we started doing it, everyone got really excited, and I said, oh, maybe we can make more sausage for other restaurants. At that time we were just using a market pig, and it wasn't so much the question of the quality or the safety. Actually, the problem was the inconsistency. And we went to most of these market pigs. It's just they had antibiotics, but they were mostly raised fairly naturally. And so the thing is, at that point we wanted to try to find something more consistent if we're going to make more sausage, and 2, we wanted to find something that was safer and just a better quality product. So we went to Peking University. Then I found a graduate student, and his father had developed this organic feeding system. And so we worked with them for several years, and the sausage was very good, but in my opinion was nothing really special. And so the thought kind of occurred to me, it's I'm going to all of this trouble to make something here in China, and it doesn't really say anything about where we are. It's just we're no different. The way I was looking at it, we're no different from just a foreign factory here making food, selling to other countries. So I started looking for a traditional Chinese pig, and through that research I found that in China there's now 53 heritage breeds that are still raised. About 100 years ago there were 80. Then the most famous pig in the U.S. and Europe, besides the Spanish Iberico pig, but the most famous pig for cooking fresh meat is this Berkshire or Wiltshire. And if you look back at the history of that, it was 2 British guys that came here in the 19th century, and they bred 3 different Chinese pigs, and then they brought that pig back to England, and that's become like, if you've ever seen like all of these British cartoons with this little pig, Wilbur. Okay, that's a Wiltshire or a Berkshire. Okay, and that originally is, you know, not to support what the Chinese government has been saying, but just like, yeah, it all came from here. And so I just said, it's like, okay, well, that's a story that like nobody knows, and nobody really wants to tell, because England has made that's their national pig, you know, and there's no way in hell that they're gonna say like our national pig came from China. And so I mean, I thought like, okay, well, you know, I want to find like a real pig that hasn't been bred with any other pigs in a long time, and it was easy to find it right away, but it was hard to find a farmer that was raising more than 2 pigs at a time. And so I heard about Guizhou, and you know, it sounded like this really cool place, and at the time everyone was, you gotta go to Yunnan. And to me, it's like, I look at Yunnan, I was just like, this just looks like Thailand. Like, it's like, wasn't, culturally it seemed very interesting, but for some reason, like when I went there, I was just like, I couldn't really see, the food was very diverse, but I didn't really see any consistency to it. When I went to Guizhou, there were 2 things that were consistent. One, people were always concerned about making good food and good products, no matter what it was. And 2 was the innovation. Because in Guizhou, like the food is especially like in places like Guiyang and like the larger cities, the food is constantly evolving. And so it's just like, and they're constantly concerned with making a better product. And so just like, for me, automatically, that was a place I wanted to do. Also, just with the way that the geography is, it's been hard for a lot of factories to be successful there. Even throughout the Cultural Revolution, they tried to move a lot of factories there to build up the area, but nothing was very successful because it's hard to get products out of there, which also means that there has not been a lot of pollution there. So I worked with some friends, and we eventually got a farm there, and we actually found some people who were willing to raise this traditional pig from the northern Guizhou, which is also leaner meat. And I mean, these pigs are fucking aggressive. Okay, I mean, like, they're not like, when you go and you see like these overbred pigs, like you go and they have them in these little stalls and they just kind of sit there, and you know, it's like you walk up to them and they get really scared, and you know, it's not like a really attractive piece of meat, to be quite honest with you. When you go to our farm, it's just like this big open area, and these pigs are running around. And like, you know, when it comes to like eating time at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, if the guy is late, they start attacking the trees. and you know, and when I first saw that, I was just like, is this okay? I mean, this looks like some sort of horror movie. And it's just like, but then you feed them, and then they go running around, and then they just collapse and just like, sleep. And I was just like, now, like, you know, when you think about all of the stereotypical view of a policeman, you know, they say, oh, these police are pigs, you know, it's just like they run around, they're aggressive, and they're harassing everyone, and then they go eat, and then they go sleep. You know, and it's like, I was looking at that, I was like, now I see this, now I understand. So, I mean, to kind of move on, I mean, it's just like, so, you know, we started with one project, we got it really up, you know, really high and really successful, and then I decided to tear it down to do something a little bit more meaningful. The second stage of that was, you know, I was making more traditional, like, Western style sausages, and a lot of people really liked them, but again, it wasn't something that I really liked, and it didn't really say anything about me being here. So that's when we started doing things more like I started looking at la rou. La rou is more of a kind of traditional Chinese style bacon, but most of the stuff that you find is packed full of chemicals, or it's over salted, or it's over dried. And then what's happened is, because most of it's so salted, the way that people cook it has changed. You know, it used to be that this was a very lightly salted piece of meat, then it was smoked over time, and then people could eat it as it is, or they would very lightly cook it. Now people like soak it in water, then they cook it, they overcook it, and you get like this, you know, they're using it to salt products rather than to flavor products. You know, and I said, okay, well, you know, how can we make this better using like the knowledge that I have? I want to make something that people just want to eat raw, and that it's safe to be raw. And so I mean that this year was the first year we were able to do that, along with some other like we make a mala shanchang, we make a la chang, but every time we make this, I try to make it a little bit different. I'm not here to make authentic or traditional Chinese products. It doesn't really make sense. I want to make good products. With the oil, so we do this. We found this thing in Guizhou called the wood ginger or mujianzi. Is it's like a little seed that comes off the tree. For some Chinese people, it's like they smell it. It tastes like medicine, But the thing is, if it's used in the right way, and if you can teach people how to use it, it creates this really beautiful fragrance for almost anything. For me, the products is I can see the commercial viability 5 years from now, but if it's not something that I really am proud of or really love doing, it doesn't really make any sense to me.